today is day 4, bisectors and angle pair relationships. The first thing we're going to learn about is the angle bisector. Is a ray that divides an angle into two congruent angles. I'm going to write angles like this with the symbol and an S. Okay, so here's your angle bisector, and it cuts the big angle in half. So these two angles are congruent. So if ray BD bisects angle ABC, then angle ABD is congruent to angle DBC. Okay? Next thing we're going to learn about are complementary angles. Okay? These are a pair of angles whose measure totals 90 degrees. One way to remember that is that complementary starts with the letter C, so I'm going to write out the letter C, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that C into 90 degrees. Alright, so here we have two angles that are complementary, and you see that box there indicating that it's 90 degrees. So what you would do is set up an equation that does just that. X plus 68 equals 90 degrees. So you would subtract the 68 on both sides, and then you would get X equals 22. Okay? So for this one, you would do the same thing. X plus 30 equals 90. Then you would combine like terms, subtract the 30, 2x equals 60. You divide by 2, and then you would get 30. Alright, let's check that. So anytime you see the x, it would be 30. So if this angle is 30, this would be 30 plus 30 is 60. 30 and 60 add up to 90. Next term are supplementary angles. Okay? These are a pair of angles whose measure totals 180 degrees. Okay? So supplementary begins with the letter S. What you would do is make that S into 180 degrees. Okay, so a good way to remember that. So same thing as complementary. This time we're going to set the two angles up to equal 180 degrees. X plus 130 equals 180. You subtract 130 from both sides. X is going to be 50 degrees. Okay, so anytime you see X, it's going to be 50. Here's X, 50, and 50 and 130 make 180. Okay, so it checks. For this one, you have 12x plus 6x equals 180 degrees. And then this combines to 18x equals 180. You divide by 18, and then x equals 10. So now, anytime we see x for this problem, it is going to be 10. 12 times 10 is 120. 6 times 10 is 60. Okay, there we go. Alright, a linear pair. Okay, they are two adjacent, and one way to remember what adjacent means is to circle the last two letters. Adjacent means next to. Okay? Alright, angles that form a line. Okay, so let me smooth that out. A linear pair are two adjacent angles that form a line. All right, one way to remember what this is that it has the word line, okay, right there. So when we look at this, you have 1 and 2 being adjacent and they form a line. You have 2 and 3 being adjacent and forming a line. Again, 3 and 4 being adjacent and forming a line. And then finally, 1 and 4 forming a line. Okay? So, here's a simple example. Right here, you see that line being formed. So, just like supplementary, okay, we set it up 5x minus 18 plus 4x plus 45 equals 180. Okay? We're going to combine like terms and we're going to get 9x plus 27 equals 180. So you're going to subtract 27 and you're going to get 153. Let's isolate that x. Divide by 9, divide by 9, x is going to be 17. Okay? Alright, so a couple of rules to remember to make sure that angles are adjacent. Again, this means next to. Okay? They have to be on the same plane. So, they have to be coplanar. They have to have a common vertex. Okay? So, here on these adjacent angles, here's your common vertex right here. Okay, that point. Alright? Number 3, they have to have a common side. Here is their common side, right there. Okay? And then number 4, they can't have common interior points. Okay? So any point that's in this angle cannot be in the other angle, and vice versa. And that's linear pair. Alright, next page. Vertical angles. Okay? These are two angles that are congruent and across from each other and share a vertex. Okay? So, I like this. It's going to look like a bow tie. Alright? So here you go. Here are two vertical angles right here. Okay? See how you see that bow tie? Okay? And then the opposite, these are also vertical and they create their own bow ties. So you have an orange bow tie and a green bow tie. Okay? Here, the vertical angles are 1 and 3. And then here, vertical angles are 2 and 4. Okay? So, a key thing to remember, as mentioned before, are that vertical angles are congruent. Therefore, we set them up as equal when we're trying to solve for the variable. Okay? Just like that. Again, I'm going to take out the smaller x. Okay? Say goodbye. Then 16 comes down. You've got 3x minus 5. We're going to add 5 to both sides. Okay, I'm going to carry this over here. You're going to get 21 equals 3x. You're going to divide by 3 on both sides, and x is now going to be 7. Okay? So anytime you see x, it's going to be 7. Let's plug that into here. 7 plus 16 is 23. And 4 times 7 minus 5 is also 23. So this checks. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to get a little fancy and put it all together. So this problem involves two variables. You have x's and y's. Okay? So you're going to take it one step at a time. I'm going to solve for x first. All right? So I'm going to look at the ones the ones with x's. All right? So here's an x, and here's the other. Okay? So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, well, this is a linear pair. And what is the relationship of a linear pair? Well, they add up to 180. Okay? So I'm going to set up my equation like that way. 3x plus 5 plus x plus 15 equals 180. Okay? So now we have to add like terms. 4x, okay, because of that, and then these terms plus 20 equal to 180. You subtract 20 on both sides, and you're going to get 160. You divide by 4, you divide by 4, x is 40. Okay? So now we figured out what x is. Let's plug that in to make sure we did it right. 3 times 40 plus 5 gives you 125. Okay? Here, 40 plus 15 gives you 55. Okay? So does 55 and 125 equal 180? It sure does. All right, let's tackle the other variable, which is y. All right? So I'm looking here, there's a y there, there's a y there. Oh, what do you know? They're also a linear pair. Okay? So I'm going to write that to make my life easier and to remind me that linear pairs add up to 180. So you've got y plus 20 plus 4y minus 15 equal to 180. Okay? So just like last time, let's combine like terms. Always take the sign in front of the term. So that's going to be 5y. 20 minus 15, that's going to be 5. And everything still equals 180. So you subtract 5 on both sides. That's going to give you 175. You divide by 5 to isolate the y, and y is now 35. Okay? So let's plug that in and check our answers. Okay? So you've got 35 plus 20, okay, is 55. All right? That works. And then you've got here 4 times 35 minus 15, that's 125. This is what makes geometry great, okay? You've got linear pairs that add up to 180, so these two and these two are linear pairs, and then you've got the vertical angles, they're congruent, so everything checks. 125, 125, 55, 55. Okay. So let's put it all together, okay, in this chart. These are the important buzzwords, okay, to help you set up your equations. So, when to set it equal, okay? The word congruent, obviously, you're going to set it equal. The word bisect. Bisect